Our guest speaker today, Dr. Zac Shutler, describes himself in this way, and I'm quoting at this point. I began my leadership journey as a young boy going to work with my father at my family's small grocery store in Martins Ferry, Ohio. While my father believed he was simply teaching his son the meaning of hard work, the seeds of leadership were being sown through observing how a successful small business operates. Those hours spent at the family business with my mom and dad established my core values and led me to the discovery of my why, which is to serve others by developing their leadership potential, so together we prepare future generations to serve as leaders at home and within our communities. My desire to serve as a positive influence and mentor has led to a career in education. I've served as a teacher, coach, principal, professor, and superintendent. The leadership positions I've been entrusted with have afforded me the opportunity to build relationships, influence others, and to share a collective purpose. Sharing stories about growing up in a small family business and the leadership lessons that were learned along the way helps me connect the world of customer service to the field of public education. More importantly, I am a son, brother, friend, and Christian striving to overcome my own fears and anxieties, to be the best version of myself for others. I believe what makes my story interesting is the fact that it is common, and what makes us unique is often what makes us relatable to others. The journey of becoming who we are meant to be, the path to purpose. End of quotation. Dr. Shutler is a 2002 graduate of Mount Union University and a 2006 graduate of Franciscan University of Steubenville. He earned his doctorate degree in educational leadership from the University of Findlay in 2022. He is currently the superintendent of Union Local School District in Belmont County, Ohio. He resides in Coleraine, Ohio with his wife, Kara, and their two children, Luke and Leah. Please welcome Dr. Shutler.
Thank you, Dr. Fell. It's an honor to be here, and I found out as I was coming out to the stage, it's even more of an honor because many of you didn't get to experience a traditional high school graduation. So I hope you take the time to really enjoy this moment, because I think if we learned anything during that time, almost everything can be taken away except for what we control on the inside. High performance psychologist Dr. Michael Gervais, former psychologist for the Seattle Seahawks, has taught us as human beings we can only train three things. We can train our bodies, we can train our craft, and we can train our mind. Unfortunately, many of us spend time training the body and training the skills, the craft, but we don't focus on training our minds. So what I would like to do as we start is just pause, because life is a collection of moments. And where the fear and anxiety comes from is looking too far ahead, looking towards tomorrow or next month or next year. And that's where the anxiety is created. So let's ground our feet, really feel the floor. Just dig those toes and just be grounded for a moment. Take a breath and look around. Look to your left, look to your right. Actually look, see who you're surrounded with right now. Because the reality is it's the last time you'll be in the same room with everybody here together. Really slow the moment down. I think too often we try to speed through everything because we want to see what's next, what's coming ahead. The way to be great in life is to be great right now. Be great in this moment. Be the best version of you now. Put the cell phone away and focus on who you're talking to now. And it's hard, man. It's hard for me. I fall into this trap as much as anybody. I think the lowest point in my life is when I worried so much about the future that I was so anxious that I couldn't be there right now for others. As we move into this speech, I want to break it into two parts. I think one part is for the parents and the grandparents who are in attendance, because this is a huge moment for them too. You're the culmination of all that they've done with you from the time they found out they were pregnant, from the time they brought you home from the hospital, from the time they put you on that bike and taught you how to do that by yourself. It is a huge moment for you, the graduates, but it's just as big of a moment for the moms and dads and grandmas and grandpaps and caregivers. So I want to share a couple stories about my two children that are sitting right there with my beautiful wife, Kara. And I hope that the parents in this audience find this relatable. The first story is about my daughter, Leah. She's 12 years old. She'll never be 5 years old again. But when she was 5 years old, we took her to her first T-softball game. How many parents had kids play T-ball and T-softball? I hope a lot. Those could be some interesting days. So it was a hot May day, and she decided that she wanted the game to be over. So in between innings, she just stayed standing right there on second base. Didn't move an inch. The coach had to come out and pick her up underneath the armpits and carry her off the field. And I'm standing there thinking, what is she doing? Well, we get in the car, and I look at her, and I say, Leah, why didn't you leave the field between innings? And she said, well, Dad, I kind of just wanted the game to be over, and I felt like if I didn't move, the coaches would be forced to end it. And I just kind of look at her, and I'm like, Leah, your last name's on the back of your jersey. That's super embarrassing. Well, it didn't take me long to realize she was not embarrassed at all. She looked at me and she said, Dad, I can't see the back of my jersey, and even if I could, I can't read anyway. Well, that was 7 years ago, and she's still got that spunk. But if I would have rushed through that moment, I wouldn't be telling you that story right now, because life is made of moments. For my son Luke, not Luke Skywalker, I know it's May the 4th, we try to tell him and my daughter that you guys are Shutlers, and Shutlers are leaders. Leaders do the right thing, especially when it's hard. So we try to ingrain that positive self-talk into their minds. There was a day, it was very windy, much like a lot of days in Ohio are when the weather's changing, and we were driving by my brother's house, and his trash cans were strewn all over the yard, trash everywhere. I casually looked at my son and I said, boy, Uncle Ben, gonna have a mess to clean up when he gets home. We drove by the house, and he looked at me and said, Dad, you talk all the time about us being leaders, and leaders do the right thing when it's hard. Well, if that's true, why didn't we stop and clean up Uncle Ben's trash? Stop me dead in my tracks. Stop me dead in my tracks. Our words matter. Our words matter. We turned around, we picked up the trash, and he held me accountable that day as like a 9-year-old boy. So the things that we say, what we said to our kids makes them who they are. So if what we say matters, why aren't we more intentional with our words? There's a great story, and this is where we get into the message I want to share to our graduates. There's a great story about the late head basketball coach, Jimmy Valvano. Jimmy Valvano went on to coach the North Carolina State Wolfpack, but when he was in high school, he was very sure what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. He was resolute in this. He wanted to be a head basketball coach, but not a high school basketball coach, even though that's a huge obligation job. He set his sights up here. He wanted to be a Division I basketball coach. And not just a Division I basketball coach, he wanted to be a national championship head basketball coach, and he believed it. He believed it with every fiber of his being. When he was about 15 years old, he went to his dad, and he shared this dream with his father. He said, Dad, I know what I want to do with the rest of my life. And his dad looks at him and says, what do you want to do with the rest of your life, Jimmy? He says, I want to be a Division I men's basketball coach, and I want to win and lead a team to a national title. Now, there's a lot of different ways his dad could have responded. He could have tapped him on the shoulder and said, that's great, Jimmy, and went about his day. He could have said, you know, Jimmy, being a Division I basketball coach, not very many of those jobs out there. Why don't we have a plan B? But Jimmy Valvano's father didn't say either of those things. About 2 days later, after he shared that message with his dad, Mr. Valvano said to Jimmy, "Hey Jimmy, why don't you come into the bedroom here a second?" And Jimmy followed his dad to the bedroom, and his dad pointed to a suitcase in the corner. His dad said, "You see that suitcase over there, Jimmy?" And Jimmy said, "Yeah." He said, "My bags are packed. When you become a Division I men's head basketball coach, my bag is already packed. I'll be there to see it happen." Now just imagine how that changed how Jimmy felt about his dream. He knew somebody believed in him. Our words matter, they inspire. This is from a great blog that I read every day called The Daily Dad that Ryan Holiday writes. And that story I read about 4 or 5 years ago, it stuck with me forever. It also stuck with Jimmy forever because in 1983, he was a Division I basketball coach. He did lead a team to the national title. They were a number 6 seed, the North Carolina State Wolfpack. And he's probably more famous now for his battle against cancer and the powerful speech he gave at the ESPYs, the ESPN ceremony. And at that ceremony, he said, "My dad gave me the greatest gift anyone could give their son. He believed in me." Our words matter. And if they matter that much, they can change the trajectory of somebody's life. Why aren't we more intentional with the words that we use when we support people? The last story I want to share is about a young soldier named Ulysses S. Grant. When most people think of Ulysses S. Grant, they think of the bearded guy chomping on the cigar that was the general that helped save the Union under Abraham Lincoln, or they think of him as the President of the United States. This was not that Ulysses S. Grant. This was a young soldier that was just figuring out who he was and what the meaning of his life would be. He was marching with his unit in West Texas. And he was nervous, he was scared, it was nighttime, it was dark. And he could hear wolves howling. And the more the unit moved, the louder the howls became. Grant was convinced that there was a ferocious pack of wolves right around the corner. And as they marched, he became more anxious. His palms became sweaty. He was talking to his comrades, asking, if they were nervous as well. And they made some jokes. They kind of chuckled at this young soldier. And when he was convinced, as the howls grew louder and louder, when he was convinced that they were surrounded, a funny thing happened. Grant and the troops stumbled across this ferocious pack of wolves that were getting ready to engulf the unit, and it happened to be 2 wolves. And when the wolves heard the footsteps of the troops, the wolves themselves scattered in fear. And Grant remembered that story for the rest of his career. As a general, as a president, he would say, there's always more wolves before you take the time to stop and count them. And that's from Ryan Holiday's book, Courage is Calling. And I think courage is calling all of us to go out in the world today and make a difference, to be a uniter, not a divider, to be someone that brings people together, not drives them apart. As we move forward in the ceremony, I'd like everybody to take away hopefully 3 things. One is the great moments happen in the present. Anxiety is fear of a future that hasn't happened yet. And if we have a choice in how we think about the future, why wouldn't we think about it in an optimistic way? If you want to be great tomorrow, be great right now. Be great in this moment. The second thing is our words matter. And if our words do matter and they make a difference, why not be more intentional? Why not use them to inspire instead of tearing others down? And then finally, if you're going to go out and do great things in the world, if you're going to go out and make a difference and help others and support others and make the world a better place, you're going to face your share of critics. You're going to face your share of people that will want to tear you down. Surround yourself with a group of people that are honest with you, that will tell you when you're headed in the right direction, but will also tell you when you're headed in the wrong direction. Have a small table, a group of folks that you trust, and then tune out the rest of the noise. Do not let the loudest noise be the noise inside your own head, because we can be our biggest critics. So train your mind to be your best friend. Stay present in the moment, use your words to inspire, and always always realize there's more wolves before you stop and count them. Congratulations, class of 2024.